And I always made clear, like, you got a really crappy website. Like, who made this? A third grader? Is I found nonprofits that I like, and most nonprofits don't have great websites. Offer them something that's build their capacity. If you can build their capacity by making life simpler for them, this is a cold call you could make with success.
This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for watching today. Welcome to the Fully Managed by Penji podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Steve Vick from Web 907. I am so excited to have you on today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, Shannon, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Of course. I really like the portrait behind you, by the way.
Oh yeah, that was a month's worth of online shopping, trying to figure out the right decor for the office. Like, you don't want to have something that looks controversial. You don't want anything that's too edgy. You don't want to be too like a hotel room. It's like neutral but fun, and yeah, I have other ones around here that are very similar.
It is a perfect neutral but fun. I understand that completely. It's like you can see my artwork is my Electrobox. So we're looking for something to very strategically cover that at the moment.
You can take a poster like this and put it on poster board, and you stick magnets on the back, because I actually had the same thing in my old office. And then I just put a magnet, I just magnetized it right over there, and all of a sudden it was a picture.
Thank you for the advice. That's actually perfect.
Yeah, easy to get into too, so you can just pull it off in magnets.
Thank you. That's actually incredible advice. I didn't even think about magnets. Thank you. All right, I didn't expect to, I learned from this podcast too, or hopefully we'll learn more. So first, I just wanted to be able to tell our audience a little bit about you and your work, and kind of like what has led you to this point.
Oh, geez. I'll give you a short, short synopsis. But I run Web 907, which is a web development company up here in Alaska, and I've been in Alaska for about almost 25 years now, and I started my web design business kind of as a side hustle. Wasn't really expecting to be a full-time designer, just like, oh, I can always do a website or two every other month or so, and have $500 or $1,000 of cash come in while I did something else. And it just slowly built. I kept getting clients, and all of a sudden it's like, this web stuff is actually more lucrative and a little more fun than trying to find other jobs. And I have a background in education in multimedia development, so it kind of just took off, right? And so, I'm in Fairbanks, and Fairbanks is about 100,000 people in the whole borough, but about 30 or 40,000 people in the city. So it's kind of a tight market, and I'm lucky that there's not a lot of competition. So it's easy to, if you have good SEO and a good website, you can rank pretty well and slowly become, great. As I say to anyone in any town, like, just get good SEO, get a good website, put lots of content on there, content marketing, and fully explain your services. I put pricing on my pages. Some people don't like to put pricing on their pages. It's like a 50-50, and it's also like a 50-50 on whether it helps or not. But I like sites with prices on them, so I put prices on there. I do all this kind of stuff, and then I really kind of, after a while, I realized, like, oh, I need a good Google business listing, and this is years ago, and I need to get reviews, and so it's like, I need to ask for reviews. This is how you get reviews. You have to ask for them. And so then I started going to past clients and like, give me a review, give me a review, give me a review, and so you just start accruing all this, and it slowly builds your business, and it builds your reputation, and it builds your rankings, and so all of a sudden, like, you get found on Google. And anyways, it's been a slow journey. I remember I used to teach night classes. I used to teach computers. I used to teach computers to people who shouldn't be using computers. And I would teach them at night class, and it was okay. It wasn't super enjoyable. And during the day, I'd do some side hustling, web stuff and other stuff. And eventually, I remember when the point came where I was making just enough on web stuff. I think I can quit my night job. And I made that shift maybe 6 months too early. It was stressful 6 months after that, but
Yep.
I made that shift. But I just kind of knew that clients were going to keep coming and slowly build. And, that's when your side hustle turns into your job. All right, there you go.
No, I like that that's a kind of a natural progression, and I do resonate with the idea of putting your pricing on your page. I think that's important. Me personally, I am way too uncomfortable with talking to people about pricing of things, and I'd rather it just be there. So if someone doesn't put their pricing on their page, I probably will move on to the next website.
Probably the number one question all designers get, and it's a question you can never answer just straightforward, but they'll be like, how much does it cost to get a new website? And you're like, well, there's a lot of variables. Is it just a static page? You're going to have e-commerce. Do you need galleries? Do you need a login? You're going to have users. Do you need, all that kind of stuff in there? But that's the first question you get. How much does it cost? And so I put pricing on there basically for like static basic pages, my hosting, SEO costs, digital marketing. There's all the baseline prices, right? And so they're usually the minimum and up. So your minimum cost of entry is this. And then they know. And if it's too much for them, then they don't call. And I'm happy, right? They're happy. They didn't waste their time, and I don't have to sit there and try to convince them why we charge what we charge.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think pricing really helps out in that.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that, you don't want to waste anyone's time. I think that a lot of people will, quote unquote, they might not agree that it's a waste of time, but try to convince people that it's, something that it's worth their while to invest in. But I think that, they'll figure that out once maybe they go to someone that isn't, maybe isn't as good, that's less money. And then they'll come back if they truly believe that. But I think that's kind of up to the client. I don't think we should waste time trying to convince someone, if they're not interested, then what's the point? You might not be happy.
That's a good, like trying to convince someone to need a website.
Yeah.
I read the clients are like, well, I have Facebook. Why do I need your website? And I'm like, we are too far away. Try to convince those people and explain to them like why Facebook wasn't, Facebook's chronological and it's a feed and stuff gets lost and no one's going to see it unless they go there. No one's going to go there anyways. And they're not going to see it because only 2% of the people see your post anyways. So you're going to have to spend money on digital marketing, like all these reasons to not use Facebook. And they'd still argue with me that they don't need a website. I'm like, that's not a client you want. It's not,
Yeah.
That's what your website can do, though. Your website could have content on there explaining to them why Facebook isn't a good thing so Facebook's a good thing to have, but not solely. You don't run your business on Facebook, though some people do, right? You need a website, though. You need that platform. You need that launch pad where all the content is, where the contact is, where all the information is. So maybe that's a good reason to have, a nice article on your web design website, why Facebook isn't enough, or is Facebook all I need, or however you want to grab them to read that, and then you can educate them, right? I just got tired of doing that, so it's like, okay, that's okay. You can use Facebook.
You're missing a large chunk of people too when you're on Facebook that don't use Facebook. It was
Yep.
one of the earlier social medias, but it's definitely not the most popular now. I think I have a Facebook so that my extended family that is on the older side can reach me, but other than that I haven't used it
And you don't control your content. Facebook has its own rules, and you have to abide by them. And they can. I've never been shut down because I'm a web designer, right? But I've had clients who marijuana is illegal here, where marijuana is legal here in Alaska, and they can't have Facebook pages. Every time they try to post something, like they get shut down all the time. It's like they can't have a Facebook presence. They have no control over that, so they need a website. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, so there's 100 reasons why Facebook is not the only thing you should have.
Speaking of, I was just curious because I've never been to Alaska. I don't know much about it. I was wondering what kind of incoming brands and companies do you get coming in to look for web design? Like, is there something popular that you think would probably be more common in Alaska than in other places?
There's not a niche here per se. It's small businesses. I have yoga studios, I have contractors and construction people, I have hospitals, I have pet sitters, I have lawyers. I get quite a few lawyers, but there's not really a specific niche. It's just a wide variety of small businesses. And it's somebody who typically needs a static site, a 5-page brochure site. Maybe they need some online payments. Uh, very, very few of them need like login and user access and things like that. So it's very straightforward. But then we do have a few complaints. We have lots of nonprofits. That gets a little more complex because we install um, donation platforms into there so they can actually run campaigns from their websites. And so then you got a lot of different moving parts. But a lot of it is our bread and butter is just small business brochure sites. And yeah, no particular niche up here. Though I will say Alaskans want to hire Alaskans. We're like a small town and we don't trust people from outside, and they like to be able to drive and see you. We kind of have an older demographic as well. So they're not very tech savvy. So we do get a lot of people like if I wanted a client to share documents with me in Google Drive, that might be a problem. Right. So but we have ways to accommodate that.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. It's good to know your audience, especially if that's exactly how it works. At least you know.
Mhm.
So, you said that there was like this, the 6-month time where maybe you should have not switched over to your full-time position. Was it difficult to get clients at that time, and kind of like what strategy did you develop to be able to get these incoming clients that you needed?
Yeah. It's a calculated risk, right? You have to know when you're first starting out, you'll get a client or two. And a lot of that might be, I'm going to do my friend's website. I have a friend that works at a nonprofit. I'm going to do that one. And just you're getting your feet wet, right?
Mhm.
And you're kind of starting out and you're like, okay, you're getting your skills and you're kind of setting up your systems. And a lot of your clients will become by word of mouth because you have a brand new website that you just put for your own business. So you're not really getting found yet because you haven't been around and Google doesn't look at your website as an authority. So then you just slowly, like word of mouth is a good way to get stuff. A lot of times, web designers will put their, made by Web 907 in the footer, and you might get a few referrals that way.
Mhm.
You can reach out. Like I would reach out to some places. Cold calling doesn't really work. I did the whole, I'm going to email you, and I made a video just for you, telling you all the things I can do. Businesses, that's spammy to them. They don't like that. Even though I've read like do this, and so I tried it. It didn't work for me, I should say. So maybe it'll work for someone else. But cold calling. But one thing that worked was I would just find really crappy websites, and like there's a local tow truck company here, and they had a really just like you made this with Wix, and your kid made it for you, and so I just made one in WordPress, just the first page. And say, hey, look, I saw you have this website here, and I, you have a good business because I know who you are. I drive by your lot. You guys look professional, but your website isn't up to snuff. It's not exactly what I said, right? But I said, hey, I just did a quick design for you. This is what I could do for you, and I actually made a website, right? I made a front page landing page for them so they could see what it could be, which was good for my skills, right? I could practice I took their content and made it into a new website, and so I sent them that link. And I did that for a few people. I'd just be like, some of them were like, nope, not interested. Others are like, you know what? That is much better. And it's what, $500? We'll take it because you offer them a good price. When you're first starting, you got to go low.
Yeah.
You got to get business. So you got to go low. I would make a 1-page website for them and say, I can make the rest of them if you want. Brand new, look how good it's going to look. And $500, I'll finish it for you. And they're like, oh my God. Yeah. And they do that. Right. So I would, during that time, I knew I had a few clients in the pocket, like they were just waiting, like they had already contacted me and contracts weren't just signed yet, but I knew they were coming through. And I knew that I was averaging at that time, maybe a client a month, which wasn't quite enough to survive on. But with the 10 existing clients I already had, I had some recurring kind of passive income coming from hosting fees from them. So I get a little, so each time I got a new client, they added hosting fees on there, and it made it easier and easier to, when I didn't have clients, to survive. Right. Yeah, so you could do rank and rent. I never did that, but I heard that's what some people do, which is basically you make a website. It'd be good for small towns. If you're in a small town, let's say you want uh, you want to focus on lawyers or something like that. You'd make a one-page website for lawyers in Fairbanks, right? Lawyers in whatever small town you're in, right? Red Cedar, Idaho, lawyers, and get that thing ranking. And once it's ranking, you go to a lawyer and say, "Hey, I have a website. I get 5 leads a day. What's that worth to you?" And then you can sell that. So rank and rent is just a common thing to do. It takes SEO. You can be really good at SEO. But those leads, realtors would love that. Lawyers would love that. They want those leads. And if you have a website to generate leads for them, you're doing the sales for them. But I never did that because I didn't want it, because then I had to do sales to make it happen.
I think that's a great idea. I really like the making a first page of a website specifically that you said, because I think that's like, I do think that sometimes calling people out on like something that they might not have well done is a risk a little bit, because you could offend someone. But I think it's also really useful when you're able to provide them with that service that you can do better.
Yeah. Well, they don't know what they don't know, right? So,
Yeah.
and I always made clear, like, not to say like, you got a really crappy website. Like, who made this? A third grader? Like, really, like, hey, I can see you got a good business, and compliment them. And like, I think your website should reflect the quality of your business. And what do you think of this? The other thing to do, which is also what I did, is I found nonprofits that I like, and most nonprofits don't have great websites. I shouldn't say that. A lot of them have good websites, but find one that doesn't have one. And then this is a cold call you could make with success. You can call a nonprofit up and say, "Hey, I'm a web designer. I see your website could use some help. Are you doing online donations? I can help you get online donations." Like, offer them something that's going to build their capacity, right? And use that phrase, build capacity. That's a nonprofit. They love hearing that. If you can build their capacity by making life simpler for them, by taking online donations or something, let them know you can do that for them. Because, I'm sorry, I didn't put my phone on mute.
Okay.
Because nonprofits are used to people coming in and offering help, because that's their, have lots of volunteers.
Yeah.
Whereas businesses are used to people coming to them and trying to sell them stuff and be spam calling and stuff like that. So a business is most likely, if you cold call a business, they're like, "Yeah, I'm not interested. I get these calls all day." Call a nonprofit and say, "Hey, I'm a local web designer. I'd love to make a website for you. I can do it for cheap because I understand your budget. I'd just love to help you out." Good way to get your feet wet. And then you get recommendations. Like, nonprofits talk to other nonprofits, right? And so then you get your word of mouth and you get your feet wet, right? And so maybe you do have a niche. I kind of have a niche with nonprofits because I used to run one, and I started one. So I have this history with nonprofits. So when they call me, I speak their language, and I can get sites that suit their needs pretty well.
That's really lovely. That's actually a big foundation of how Penji started as well. We have our program Penji for Good, which is where we offer our services for very cheap, very cheap meaning $1 a month for the first 3 months, so they can use our services for anything that they need, because we know that, as I'm sure their marketing, and if they even have a design team, are usually spread very thin. And it's very difficult for them to be able to afford things like that. But it's really nice to get a quality website design. It's really nice to get a really good logo that, it makes it look good.
Yeah, it makes them look good. So when they go for grants, the grants visit, and if they write a grant, the grantee is going to be looking at their website, and their website looks like it was, constructed poorly, it reflects bad on them, right? So they
Exactly.
want to look good for that. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so what do you think your okay, how do I phrase this? Okay, so say you have a prospective customer that is looking into your business. How do you kind of get them to become an actual client?
This is your sales call, right? So they called you, and I probably just missed one right then. Somebody told me. It's not a big deal. So you got to listen. If you start telling them solutions that you have for them, you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. You got to tell me about your business, and ask a lot of questions. I ask a lot of, tell me about your business and who your clients are. If a user comes to your website, what do you want them to do? What are they looking to do? Do you need online payments? Do you have projects? Do you want a gallery? Do you need when they contact you, do you want them to contact you by phone, email, or do you want them to make appointments? Like, figure out how they run their business and who they serve and what their needs are. And this person keeps calling me back. Voice Milligan. And that way you have all the information and you're not putting them in a cookie cutter, right? Because you don't want to put them in you don't want them to feel like they're being, oh yeah, we'll make a website for you. But those calls, I do a whole bunch of questioning, right? And after a while, you can picture in your head, okay, this is this. And I always do a quote at the end of the call. So it's kind of like Geico, in 15 minutes, I'll give you a quote. Like, it's literally that way. So they would call me and I'll ask all these questions. I'll be like, okay, cool. And then, you want to know, do you have a domain yet? Sometimes they don't even know what that is. And you tell them about hosting, and you might tell them about SEO, right? Or at least getting connected to Google Analytics so that they have some way of tracking the visitors, right? Because that's always useful information down the line. But you just keep asking these questions. And by the end of the call, I'll be like, well, this is a ballpark. And I always ballpark high. But just so you know, and I'll be really frank with them, but I'll be like, 5 pages, website, contact page, and you want an appointment calendar on there with hosting for the first year. And I'll be like, you're looking around $1,800. And that's your one-time cost. And then after that, your hosting cost will be X, Y, and Z, right? So I let them know right ahead. And then I let them know, does that sound within your, was that within your budget? And if they say, well, no, well, great. Now that's what it costs for us. You can try someone else. If they say yes, then I'll be like, well, let me get you a quote. Then I actually write the quote. But I don't write a quote until I've talked with them and let them know I fully understand what they need, because I can't write a quote without that. But they have a good idea of what it's going to cost them, so that there's no sticker shock when there's a quote. And I always, like I said on the phone, I'll ballpark a little high. I'll be like, it's $1,800, but it's probably going to be a little less. Could be more. Maybe when I do write it out, oops, there is that plugin costs more money. Sorry, but they're at least in the ballpark there. So those calls usually take 15 minutes, and it's a lot of questions. Tell me all about your business, what you need, who your audience is, all that. And then I'll take this puzzle they put there and I'll say, okay, this is what I heard you said, and this is what I think it's going to cost. If this sounds good, let me send you a quote.
Well, it's good to be that transparent. I think that a lot of people are looking for that upfront. So I think that that's a really good strategy to kind of get them in the door. And it's quickly you'll learn that it's not a good fit either as well. If they can't afford that, or that's a really great place to start.
During all those questions, you're getting information about how technical savvy are they. If you ask them, what their domain is, and they're like, "What's a domain?" You're like, okay, this person might not be able. This person probably can't even send an attachment, right? So then you realize, for some people, that's like, I don't want to deal with this. Or other people are like, I will help you along the way. Why don't you come to my office and we'll sit down and we'll do it together. Some people want to do that. Other people don't want to touch that. So you're going to know if this is someone you want to work with. When you're first starting out, you'll probably say yes to everybody because you want clients. As you grow, then you can be a little more picky.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're okay.
Okay. So if you say, okay, now you have a customer, what is your tips for kind of communicating with them throughout the process and making sure that they're, happy with everything?
Right. Communication is really big for us. So because there's multiple steps, right? You got to get the content from them, and then you got to go to design. You got to get the beta to them, and they got to review it. And you want to make sure, at least for us, I would get people sending me files and emails, and some sending me files. Here's a link to my Google Drive. Someone else sending me zip files that were 10 megabytes, and I had to download, right? All sorts of, and then someone sent me from Dropbox. I'm like, I don't have a Dropbox account. And so we have a very formal process. And what we did after writing the same email over and over, stage 2 over and over, stage 3 over and over, I just created templates. And every template is, we are at the content phase, and your job is to create the content. And then I created guides. Here's a guide on how to write your content. Here's a guide on how to organize your content. Here's a guide on how to deliver your content. So that, and then I would put in there, and we're going to the onus is on you. I'd let them know right away, like, your job is this, because that's usually the biggest part when you're doing design. The biggest bottleneck is getting the content from the client. For us, that can be, oh yeah, we'll do it in 2 weeks, and then 2 months later, you're like waiting for it, right? So sometimes that's the hardest step, is to get past that phase. So I'd let people know, like, we have a very specific way we do things, and I'm going to guide you through the whole thing. I actually created an onboarding, so it's basically a course. And it has 4 sections, and each section has like half a dozen lessons with videos. You're in the design phase. You're writing your own content. Here's tips to write your own content. It's a 2-minute video of me explaining stuff, literally explaining how to use Google Drive. Because we would create the Google Drive and then put folders in there for them. And then we would have the clients, get the link, and like, when your content's written for your homepage, put it in this folder. When your photos are ready, put it in this folder. And then we had a video on why it's organized that way. And so it got, holy cow, my inbox went from this to this. It's literally, because it's all on the onboarding. And so anytime they had a question, I'd be like, oh, just go to the onboarding. It's there. And you could do an onboarding, like I bought software for this, but you could do it with any course selection, right? You could do it in YouTube. You could just have a YouTube, and then you'd be obviously out there in the universe. I guess you could unlist them, but you could have a YouTube series, however you want to do it. But we find that we had such a this person's really desperate to get a hold of me. We had such a process normalized, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, that we just made videos for each one, lessons for each one. So we walk them through that. So that process became seamless. And we also use, so we have an onboarding for that. And that's a video series course, right? But we also have project management software for us internally. So that we can add, I can go to the design team, this is due tomorrow or whatever, or they forgot the logo, go with it, whatever. And then we use Pipedrive. You could use Trello. You could use, there's Asana, but we use the Kanban style, which is moving cards along the way. So they go from design, they go from content creation to design to beta to alpha to live, whatever. And then from live, we do training. And every time we move a card over one, an automated email would get sent. And the automated email would be the full on, okay, you're now in the design phase. That would be lessons 1, 2, and 3 in your onboarding. Be sure to watch these onboardings, because we'll expect you to understand how to deliver us the content. If you have questions, let us know. And all that gets automated. It took forever to set up, but the key here is if you're running your own web design business, if you're running any business, there's that quote, right? There's that saying, don't let the business run you. You should run the business. If you're typing these emails all the time and explaining to people how to get content to you all the time, or the business is running you, right? Run the business. Create templates, create systems, create platforms. And you might have to invest a little, right? You might have to buy a course software or something like that. But that $50 a month is going to save you hours of time. Right. And so then you can just start assigning stuff. And so that when you get to that point, then you're ready for growth. You're ready to hire more people. You're ready to start, just because now you have enough people coming into your system and you don't have to do much to do it. And so you can start assigning out, right? I have designers that work for me. I have a content writer that works for me. I have a developer that works for me. I've used services similar to what you guys have. So I forget what they were called. But I just send it to them and they would assign it to their ticket system, right? And it just comes back done. So then I can focus on, how can I make my system smoother? And then I do even less work, right? So it's great. It's a win-win, So you have to pay a little to do it, but it just frees you up and allows you opportunity to grow your business.
Yeah.
I really went off on that. Sorry, I went out.
No, please don't apologize. I think that I think that everything that you said was really important, and I think like sometimes it's a little bit of a process to perfect something, but if it's going to save you work in the future, a lot of work in the future, I think it's definitely worthwhile. Creating templates is actually a huge part of my job, because I am in charge of an outreach team that sends out emails to different people, and we do have to focus on response rate and different things like that. And so I have to create new templates almost every week just to test out things and experiment. And I think that yes, that's tough, but it's going to be worthwhile when we find that key template that works the best and saves us a lot of trouble of having to do this again.
Yep. Yeah, it's like your FAQs. If you're getting asked the same question over and over, that's a cue that you need a template, or you need a page on your website that addresses this question. Like, the more questions you can answer on your website, the more informed your client is, and the better chance you have an informed client coming to you. Like, they've read that and they understand that. I know of people who have, then we would take a call. You have to do an online survey. Please answer these questions to know for a good fit. They don't even take a call. They have a client fill out a form. They get the form and they're like, yeah, this person sounds like they got the right business. Their budget's right in mind. They aren't expecting more. Like, whatever, I don't know what's in their questions that they ask, but they ask a question there to kind of filter out. Now, if you're at the point where you're not getting clients in the first place, don't even bother having that, right? Like, just take the call and try to sell them. But if you're getting 5 calls a day, it might be easier to just have that, or have a sales team, I guess. But to have, here's an online survey for you to fill out, intake form. This will help us know where you're at, what you're expecting, and if we're a good fit.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's actually something that's really great. I think that a lot of people don't do that kind of vetting process, and then kind of have to take a little more time out of their day to be able to ensure that someone's a good fit, and that kind of avoids that. And it kind of saves time for both the potential client and the person running the business or doing that task.
Yeah, it's no fun having someone that's not a good fit. It is no fun. And you can usually spot them. That's like an intake call that I'm doing. I can just there's personality quirks that you can pick out of people, and you're like, okay, this person is going to be hard to work with. And you can tell it right away. And you just feel like, you know what, we're kind of busy, or you just tell them a price that's way outside their margin or something like that, or just be flat out, I don't think we're a good fit. What we do is more hands off or more hands on or whatever. But usually you can tell those clients ahead of time. But again, I remember when I was first starting out, I had to say yes to everybody. And I had a guy, I was designing his site and he was on a really tight deadline. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this over the weekend. I'm going to spend the whole weekend. I'm just going to get this site up for you because you need it done next week for some, I forget what it was for. And so I was like, I'm just going to spend the weekend doing this. So 2 a.m, I am designing this website. I'm getting text from the client telling me where to put photos. I'm like, I am in the design. I'm just putting the photo here as a placeholder because I'm still getting the content in there. And he's like, that photo shouldn't go there.
They're actively watching it.
What are you doing? Whereas my fault should have been, I should have had a landing page, coming soon page. But I remember that. And I was like, I'm never going to go back to that. I'm never going to do that. And I knew when I hired the guy that he was going to be like, I could tell. And he was. And I couldn't say no because I needed the money. But it didn't end well.
That is rough. Yeah, no, I think it's hard, especially starting out. You're trying to please everyone and you're doing as much as you can just to be able to, stay afloat. That's very difficult. Okay, so my last question to you is, so we've gotten kind of through the whole process of having a customer, how to gain them, how to keep them happy. How do you guarantee a referral? Because, we all know that's really important to our businesses. Like, do you think that you have a strategy for how to ensure that? Do you think it's just quality work and that people will recommend that based off of that? Or do you have any process that you go through?
What do you mean by guarantee a referral? That another client's going to tell someone else to go to me, or like that I'm just going to get the call in general, or?
That's someone that you've had, that you've serviced that will guarantee a referral of someone else to you.
All right. So if someone said, hey, where'd you get your website? They'd be like, Web 907, and by God, go to them, right? That's what you want, right?
Uh-huh.
communication and support, like off the top of my head, like you got to make sure they've had a good experience, right, with you, right, and so that they felt the process wasn't stressful. Because even if you give them a good product, if it was stressful for them, they're gonna have that animosity is gonna they're gonna be, every time they see the site, that's gonna come up. They're like, oh, I remember how hard this was to build. I hate that site, even though it's beautiful, right? So you want to make sure they have a good time along the way. So communicate well with them, and throughout the process, make sure they know what you've done, what you're doing, and where you're going. And then the next step, this is what we did, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going next. And then the next step is just keep that communication open, and treat them with respect. If they don't know how to put an attachment on an email,
That's okay.
yeah, I after a while I get like, oh my God, really? But you got to be able to handle that without putting them down or whatever. But once they're your client, be responsive to support calls. Make sure that and be open and honest. My server went down once. Or if they get a virus or whatever, like these things rarely happen. But when they do, don't be like, shit, I gotta get this back up before they notice that. Let them know what happened.
Yeah.
Hey, you had this. We took care of it. It's fixed now. You may not have even noticed it, but we want you to know. Be transparent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think support is really important. You got to be available for phone calls, for emails. Like some of the things that I hear about clients who come to me from some of my competitors, it's typically they never answer my emails. It took them 2 months to make an update. Like
God.
they don't have, like, we guarantee 72 hours. You tell us something, unless it's like a big build. And if it's a big build, we'll tell the client, like, it's going to take longer because we have to install this and configure this and connect that. So this is going to take, 10 days. But typically if it's like add these photos and add this page and put this event on there, we get it done in 72 hours. And we are very responsive. We have a support ticket system for that, but that's because I have hired people, right? So, but any automation that you can add, we can't talk enough about automations or systems, when you're first starting out to make your job a little easier, build your capacity, right? Means building capacity basically means I can do more and do less. I'm achieving more, but I'm doing less work.
Mm-hmm.
So I built my capacity, and it's the client is happy, right? So I read a book a while ago that was talking about growing your business, and it was talking about don't grow bigger, grow better. And that really stuck with me. That's why I did the onboarding. That didn't make my company bigger, but boy, did that make my company better, right? Clients go through there, and when I ask for reviews, because every client at the end of the project, I'll ask them for a review, and it's just an automated email that I have pre-written. It's a template, right? We just talked about that. So they get this template email and it says a review. And ever since I've done the onboarding, that's what they talk about. Boy, did they help me along the process. Boy, was I nervous about getting a website. And boy, did they had this great training. And I felt more, I was scared, but now, they made it easy. So that made me better, right? They make me bigger, but it made my service better. It also made it easier for me. Right?
Yeah.
And so that was the point. I can't remember that book. What was that book? But that really stuck with me. Don't grow bigger, grow better.
I think that's something important that all agencies should keep in mind. Well, I am so sorry to cut this short, but this is all the time we have for today. I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me today. I think that we got a lot of valuable information for our audience. So thank you so much.
Yeah, Shannon, my pleasure. And I'll be sure to check out what you guys do. Actually, I did. When you guys first contacted me, I checked you guys out, and it's like, well, as I grow better, I do grow bigger. So when I'm at that next stage, I'll check you guys out and see what we can do.
Yeah, that would be incredible. And everyone in the audience, you can look to Penji as well. But thank you everyone for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to listen to more professionals like Steve navigate the business world and give you some tips on how you can do that as well. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.